Hi, Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. Today we have a very special guest, actually two special guests when I think about it. One just doesn't get as much credit as he deserves, which is my dear friend and business partner, Mark Powers. So the president of our company, the founder of our company, Mark Powers, is with us today. But we're bringing to you today a very amazing person, a very amazing human being who spoke at our 2021 summit and totally changed the lives of a lot of attorneys and a lot of members of our community that were there. And we thought that his voice, his message, his intentionality, his view of the world could be something that could help you shape your great life and your great practice. And so we're bringing today Brother Curtis. So Brother Curtis, Mark, welcome to the episode.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
And Mark, you were the one that was so kind, so gracious, and so crazy to bring Brother Curtis into our lives. Could you talk for a few minutes about not necessarily his bio, not necessarily his accomplishments, but your experience of him and why he's so special to you and why you thought he'd be so special to our community?
It's a wonderfully loaded question in the sense that there's so much special about it. For about 10 years, a number, probably 8 to 10 Atticus members would go to Boston, right in Cambridge, right outside of Harvard Square, to the monastery where Brother Curtis resides. And he would lead us through a retreat or workshop and also be able to spend a couple of days in their space in silent, in the sort of the presence of silence, if you will. And I can say that for every single person that went to the monastery and spent the time with Brother Curtis and the other brothers, it was a monumental experience. It was transformational.
I agree. I said it was one of the more fun, powerful experiences. And before, it was interesting because so many of our lawyers are all focused about how to make more money. Like, how do I get ahead? How do I build a better practice? And most of them, before Brother Curtis got on stage, thought we had lost our minds. So, Brother Curtis, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. You in the Atticus family invite and enable people to work into their practice in excellence. From what I know about people in leadership, lawyers, academic professionals, business professionals, there's a huge level of competition, a fear that one is not enough or being enough or becoming enough. And there's nowhere to go with that. And I think that informs the crisis that Dr. Murthy spoke about back in May.
Well, Mark, you're probably a perfect person to reflect and comment on this because I think you're one of the more interesting people I've talked to in my life about developing yourself as your own best friend.
Steve, there's a number of things that, as Brother Curtis would say, have influenced that practice. And I can honestly say going to the monastery is one of them. Being able to be in a reflection, time for reflection, time to have a discussion and a conversation about who I am and who I'm being and what keeps me apart from people. So I think it's that. I've done an enormous amount of personal work, personal development work, Landmark being one of them. I'm a big fan of Landmark because it was back in my early 30s, it was a punch in the nose to wake me up of how distant and unpresent I was. But I think just coming to grips with what Brother Curtis, what you're saying is recognizing myself as my own friend and treating myself as my own friend and not allowing me to communicate in a way that I would with myself, that I would never communicate with another human being. It is a practice of winking in the mirror and forgiving myself on a regular basis, but also knowing that I've got work to do. But I would say, Steve, that it comes from engaging it, for me, it came from engaging in conscious development work to be present, to be able to reflect on my presence, be able to know the impact my being present and my communication ability has on others. And finding out that it was hard for me to contribute to others if I wasn't a gift to myself first. I'll say one other thing about it is that it became, I am, in your words, Brother Curtis, I would say early on in my household, I learned love was to be a pleaser to my mother and to others and to certain persons. So I had a pleasing and still have a pleasing commitment personality to sort of find and affect love.
I'll name two other things, Steve, that I think can help enormously in finding our vocation, our calling, who we are to be. One of these things is humility, which does not get good press in our culture.
Nor in our community, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but the whole American culture is not.
Yeah.
Humility is not a big thing. That humility comes from the Latin etymology is humus. It's ground. It's being grounded. That we are not perfect, none of us, and we're prone to error, and we need help getting out. There's a wonderful detective series written by an author in Quebec named Louise Penny, and she's written a whole series on a rural police inspector named Chief Inspector Ganache. And Ganache says that one of his secrets for being so successful in his work as a chief inspector are four phrases that he keeps in mind all the time and that he expresses to those working with him and those whom he's serving. I don't know. I need help. I am sorry. I was wrong. I think Louise Penny has captured something around what I'm calling humility here. I think that plays well in living an authentic life.
If we're promising connectivity, relationship, it really speaks to the shadow side is there's loneliness going on. There's distance going on. And what they're trying to do is promise you, I can get you back to that. And the shadow side is work.
I think there's a lot of promising that's going on out there. If someone's coming to the monastery, they're looking for connection. They're looking to make meaning, looking to find peace in their life. So what's the trek? What is the practice? Loneliness has more to do with your relationship to yourself than it has to do with your relationship with other people. Another way of describing that is, I think that everyone in virtually every household learns at a very young age, before they can process this cognitively, what the rules are to being loved. What is it that allows you to belong, to matter, to be loved? And there are certain rules, and we internalize these rules. For many people, it's getting A's on a report card, which continues to show up long before we've left the academy. It's getting it right and being perfect. And I think that does not live well, because we're not perfect. I mean, we're works in process. And I think that where the biggest help can be in someone finding their way out of isolation and getting on the path out of loneliness is to be and become their own best friend. I will tell people sometimes to wink at themselves in the mirror, in the bathroom mirror, when you get up in the morning, because there's no one like you. There's no one that's ever been created who is anything like you, with all the gifts and needs, with all the conquests that you have made. If they would only know how much of a miracle you are, especially given how you're coming across right now. But they don't know, and most people will never know. Even those who are closest to us will not know how amazing, how miraculous our life actually is, given from where we come. So I think it's embracing the beauty and wonder of our own life, of being our own best friend, as I said, I think that is a road towards belonging, of finding meaning and hope and joy in life. But that's a practice.